So we are still counting those 49 days, the 7 weeks between the time that the Jews were freed by God from slavery in Egypt at the Exodus until they stood on Mount Sinai and received the Torah. And they had a lot of growth during those 49 days because we're told that when the Jews were in Egypt, before they were taken out, we were idolaters, very, very distant from God. And of course, 49 days later, we're ready to receive the Torah. So lots of growth during that time period. But you have to wonder, if the Jews were idolaters when they were in Egypt, why did they deserve to get saved in the first place? You know, that's pretty distant from God if you're worshiping an idol. So the answer we're told by our rabbis is that the Jews benefited from something called zechus avos. They had the merit of their fathers. Okay, their saintly forefathers, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, were so great that God, when it came time, even though we were idolaters, we were still their descendants. So God said, you know what? You're descendants from them. I'm taking you out. Okay, so by analogy, imagine you got a 17-year-old kid. He's got this laundry list of infractions, okay? And now he's coming in front of the judge, and the judge has to decide, is he going to go to jail or is he going to get probation, okay? Walks into the courtroom, and the judge is there, and the judge is Clint Eastwood, okay? So Clint Eastwood knits his brow, fixes him with his best Clint Eastwood stare, looks out at the 17-year-old, and he says, punk, I've reviewed your record, and you clearly deserve jail. But let me tell you something, punk. Today is your lucky day, because I knew your grandfather, and your grandfather was a great guy, not like you. He was upright, honest, pillar of the community, hardworking. But you know what, punk? I'm convinced that as long as your grandfather's blood courses through your veins, you got a chance. So I'm going to give you probation, and I'm going to be your probation officer. I'm going to keep an eye on you, punk. Okay? So that's what's going on. God remembers our forefathers. We don't deserve it, but he remembers them, so he lets us out. One problem. Why do we have to go into slavery in the first place? You know why? Because we're told that Abraham did certain things that for us wouldn't be considered sins, but for him, at his level, they were considered microscopically tiny flaws in his faith. He said or did things that showed that, again, that at the tiniest level, he didn't have full faith in God. And that created a problem. And because of that problem, we had to go into slavery. Why? Because Abraham's sins, it's passed down to us. We get punished for his sins. But think about that for a second. Didn't we get saved because of his merit? And we're getting punished because of his sins. So why don't we just make the following deal with God? God, I'm kind of getting a sense of how this works. Abraham sinned, we get punished. We have to go to slavery. But Abraham did good things, you're going to take us out of slavery. So God, let's make a deal. Why don't you hold on to his merit? We won't need to cash that chip in. And then you could also hold on to his sins. Don't punish us. We could say ixnay on the slavery. We won't have to go into Egypt and get beaten, etc., okay? And that's it. We'll just call it even. Why couldn't we do that? And the answer is that those sins, those infinitesimally small cracks of faith of Abraham, were cracks in the foundation of the Jewish people. He's the first Jew. He's building a nation. If you're building a building and you've got a crack in the foundation, you get high enough stories up, that building's going to fall. So we, the Jewish people, Abraham's descendants, had to go through the crucible of slavery so that we could work on those flaws, so that we could correct them. So now, fast forward, it comes time to get out. We're not getting out from zechus avos because we just happen to win the genetic lottery. We reach into our pocket and it says, let's see, I'm from, yes, Abraham, I win, I get freed. It doesn't work that way. God says, you're from Abraham, so I want to see. Are you going to show me some of those traits? I want you to go out in the wilderness now. And granted, there's all sorts of great things going on. There's blood, there's frogs, there's plagues, the sea splitting, all this wonderful stuff. But still, not that easy to walk into the wilderness following God, having no idea where you're going. And not all the Jews decided to do that. We're told that the majority of them didn't. They decided to remain in Egypt, where they eventually perished. But those who went, those who said, yes, God, we'll follow you, did exactly what Abraham had done back at his greatest moments. When God told him to leave his homeland, he said, I'm going. God, you lead, I'll follow. God says, go sacrifice your son. God, you lead, I'm following, not going to ask any questions. So we do the same thing. God says, it's time to go. We say, that's it. We're going. You're leading, we're following. And so that's why we had to go through to fix those flaws. That's why we get out, because we showed those same traits that Abraham had, that kind of faith. And that's why we use these 49 days, just like our forebears did. Each day getting closer and closer and closer to God. So let's use those days wisely, and let's keep climbing that mountain so we're ready soon to re-accept the Torah.